In the previous episode, we created this Orcish Stronghold build. Today, we will bring it to life with some terrain work. The micro build I showed in previous videos had the stronghold sitting atop a mountain, so we will need plenty of these tall supporting columns to hold up the mountain with the stronghold placed on top of it. As usual, I topped everything off with these 16 by 16 Technic bricks, which saves a ton of time when compared to building custom mills plates. Next, I started working on the lowest level first by further defining its edges and adding cliff faces to it using rock panels with studs on the side rockwork attached. There will be a total of 4 levels going up this mountain with the stronghold sitting on level 4. The first 2 levels are linked with a gently inclining natural ramp. I built it as a separate sub-assembly and added rockwork to cover up the gap afterwards. As the build progresses, you'll see that I basically built the entire mountain as a series of sub-assemblies, so there will only be a few terrain contouring time-lapses for this build. Now for the second level. We basically repeat the same process as before by defining the edges of this level and detailing it with some more cliff builds. But there are a lot more rockwork needed for this level, since there won't be any natural ramps linking this level to the third level. Instead, these 2 levels are linked by a mechanical ramp that the orcs built, which can be lifted and lowered. It acts as an entrance gate to the settlement above. The Red Horn, which is the name of this part of the world, is meant to be a wild and untamed region with dangerous wildlife as well as other foes. The only way the orcs could survive is by building their settlements on the high ground with controlled access to the land below. A bit like the Citadel in Mad Max Fury Road, for those of you that have seen the film, that's where the inspiration for this build came from. Above this cliff is where the settlement starts. We have some wooden platforms extending out from the edge, lining the entire length of this cliff. This is the first layer of defense. The orcs built crude battlements out of wooden logs here, with gaps between each bunch of logs for the archers to peer through. We also have some skeletons hanging here and there as warning to outsiders, as well as some spikes as obstacles to climbing, just like the outer walls of the stronghold in the previous episode. Now we can begin work on the mechanical ramp. It's all wooden to make it look as crude as possible, but it has to look fairly substantial as well, since it has to allow larger beasts of burden to climb up into the settlement for trading and other activities. We have a series of columns supported by a girder formation with spikes attached to prevent climbing. Once the top platform is placed, all the supporting columns will be locked together, making for a pretty strong build. The ramp itself has wooden log support structures on the underside running its entire length. It also has chains attached, which will be linked to a winch for the lifting function. This second tallest structure is a platform for the winch. I had to build it this tall to allow the beasts of burden to pass underneath it, as I will demonstrate later once we finish putting it together. The chains passes through holes in the platform to link up with the winch. There is a lock and deploy mechanism for the winch to hold up the ramp once it has been lifted. We also have some simple battlements around the winch, but they are not as tall as the ones below. Since this platform is higher up, so it will be quite difficult for invaders to shoot arrows up here from the foot of the mountain. I also didn't want to make them tall for design purposes as well, since this tower is already looking really tall. Now for the third level. This is where the settlement is situated. The orcs have basically hollowed out the mountain up here, creating a huge cave complex to maximize usable space. To create this space, I built 3 rows of columns with beams linking up each column to stop them from tipping over. All of these structural elements must be strong enough to hold up the stronghold build as well. They would need to be tiled off, since I need the stronghold build to be removable for ease of filming story events taking place in here. The first row of columns are thicker to make the mountain look more substantial and believable, whereas the columns within the cave are much thinner to maximize interior space. I had to use brackets for the beams, which creates half-plate gaps on the underside, since the core inner element had to be a singular long brick to ensure that they would be strong enough to support the stronghold. In this case I used Technic bricks since I had plenty of them on hand. These beams for the first row of columns has the new D-shaped snot brick placed on top to attach the final layer of rockwork sandwiched between the columns and the top platform. Luckily I found a bunch of these snot bricks on a pick-a-brick wall a few months ago. Without them, the final layer of rockwork would have to be much thicker, which would ultimately consume way more parts. To help support the stronghold, we have 2 load-bearing walls on either ends. They are built similarly to the front columns with studs on the side rockwork attached. I am probably overcompensating with these, structurally speaking, but I just wanted to be sure that the stronghold is properly supported for the months ahead as this build series progresses. You will notice that the tiles along the outer edge of the wall is lowered by 1 plate. This, along with some sparsely placed studs and the wall of snot bricks, are what locks the top platform in place. Before I placed the second load-bearing wall, I had to swap out one of the 16x16 Technic bricks for a custom-built one with a cutout for stairs leading down to the lower levels of the cave system. These lower levels will be added in a future episode. Now we can place the inner columns. As you can see, they are built much more streamlined than the previous structural elements to maximize space in here. I also felt more confident to use these thinner columns here, since we already have the load-bearing walls and the thick columns up front. They are linked together with beams built the same way as the front row of beams. I made sure to make everything removable so I can detach any of these elements in case they get in the way of filming. The last row of columns are built the same way and are linked in much the same way. You may notice that the medium nougat side panels abruptly ends under the second column. I'm leaving it like this so I can add the lower level later on. We have a final ramp sub-assembly to scale up the 16 brick height difference between level 3 and 4. I'll be leaving the side of it open for now, since I will need to complete the lower level first, before building up the medium nougat side panels to reach the side of this ramp. Just like the mechanical ramp, I made sure that the beast of burden could fit into this cave, since this part of the cave acts as a dock or receiving area for traders coming into this settlement. It's a bit of a tight fit, but this mountain's already really big as it is. This is the platform that will be supporting the stronghold. It's a series of 10 16x16 Technic bricks pinned and plated together. It's a fairly strong build and can be held up with one hand without any warping issues. Placing the stronghold on top was a bit tricky, but using a random bit of plastic board helped a lot. Next, we added a thin layer of rockwork sandwiched between the platform and the columns. This is the last bit of detail I'll be adding for this episode, since by this point I've already spent nearly 2 months building this mountain and this episode is getting a bit long. Other details such as path laying will be done in the next episode. In the shadow of the world's edge, life is measured in height. High above the valley floor, the Orcish tribe known as the Bleeding Blades have etched their existence into the Crimson Plateaus. Their settlements are scars upon the stone, primitive villages clinging to the vertical world. Here, on the edge of the sky, they have found a natural sanctuary from the perils below. Though their previous chieftain fell during an assault on the Lion Knight's capital of Lionsguard, a new leader has already risen to take his place, ensuring the tribe's brutal legacy continues uninterrupted. From these heights, the tribe observes a landscape of nightmares. The earth flattens into a vast, unmapped frontier where the flora and fauna appear unlike anything found in the civilized kingdoms. To descend into these strange wilds is to risk the deadly terrors of the lowlands. This ancient territory remains untamed, a primitive domain silent to the calls of men and hostile to all who dare to enter. This is the Red Horn. I'd like to give a big shout out to our channel members supporting the creation of Scarellis, with a special thank you to our captains, Brendan Bundyboy Davies, Karnosh, Kaya Fried Rice 38, Omnicon, Henry Nix, Glenn O'Donovan, Star Wars Dragon Fan, and James Nichols. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.